Hello, my friends. This is Lada from AstroladaOfficial, and we continue with the 2024 Astrology Marathon. And today, my guest is Evolutionary Astrologer Mila, who will take us through the important evolutionary moments of 2024. And hello, Mila.
Hi, Lada. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
You're a favorite guest for many of our viewers with your evolutionary psychological view of astrology. I'm very excited to hear your look on 2024 because we have the most important planet in evolutionary astrology changing signs a few times, Pluto, and I'm curious to hear your take on that. But before we start, I just want to tell to everyone that Mila is offering as a really good 25% discount on all of her readings for the next 2 weeks after this video comes out. If you resonate with her style of teaching, with her style of reading, you're always welcome to contact Mila. I'm putting the links below and in cards on this video. So yes, let's begin. I'm excited.
Yeah, so Pluto is going to make a show next year because it's going to go back into Capricorn for one last time. So we have Pluto re-entering Aquarius in January because Pluto already had 3 months in January now in 2023, as we just ending this year. And for a lot of people, they could already feel that there was certain shift. I even can, like when I ask my clients, they can already feel it that between March and June, when Pluto was in Aquarius this year, for the first time, they could already feel there were like movements. And I also said that to me, the first half of this year, when Pluto was in Aquarius, then of course it went retrograde back into Capricorn. But just before the nodes shifted, because we're going to be covering that as well, there was like a different energy to the second half of the year. Kind of, it seems like after July 17th, when the nodes shifted and Pluto was obviously back in Capricorn at that stage, it was like a completely different year. The energy started changing from July like until now, and the energy will be again changing next year because Pluto will move into Aquarius in January. Then it will go back into Capricorn for one last time. It will start retrograding on May 2nd, 2024. And then it actually, I just wrote the lunations here, but because it's interesting how it's all happening alongside the lunation, and that will be literally just before the new moon in Taurus, which will take place on the 7th of May. And then Pluto will re-enter Capricorn for the last time, depending where you are in the world, on the 1st or the 2nd of September. And that's literally right before the new moon in Virgo, because new moon in Virgo, again, depending where you are in the world, 2nd or 3rd of September will be new moon in Virgo. And then we'll have the eclipse later on in the same month. And this is, again, something I want to talk about with regards to the lunar nodes, because the eclipse will be in Pisces. So next year, a lot of things are getting weird a little bit with all this Pluto changing back and forth into Capricorn for one last time. And it doesn't get any further than like 29 degrees, 29 degrees and some change. It's literally like, it's not even going very far. I mean, it's going to be in Capricorn for only like a 1 month, because it's going to go back into Aquarius in October. So yeah, November. It's going to re-enter Aquarius on November 19th. So it's going to be in Capricorn literally for 2 months. And again, Pluto is going to re-enter Aquarius right after the eclipses ended, because the solar eclipse in Libra, which will be the second eclipse, will happen at the beginning of October. So by the time Pluto stations direct on October 12th, and by the time it re-enters Aquarius again for the last time, and then it will stay there until 2043, it will be after the eclipse season, and it will be just alongside the new moon in Scorpio, which will take place at the beginning of November, and then 15th of November we'll have the full moon in Taurus. So again, Taurus is popping up, which is interesting because, of course, Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, that's going to become the ruler of Pluto for the upcoming almost 20 years, it's in Taurus at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we have these very interesting things happening. And of course, as I mentioned, alongside of the same thing, we have these eclipses shifting. So one thing that I've noticed, which I think is very important to pay attention, is we are not going to have a lunar eclipse in Aries at all. There is only solar eclipse in Aries. We already had the first one early this year, in 2023 in April, which was the second new moon in Aries. We had two of them. There were two new moons in Aries. One was on 0 degrees and one was on 29 degrees. And the second one was the eclipse. And then this just past fall, which we just had, we had the last eclipse in Taurus, which was the lunar eclipse. And then next year in 2024, the lunar eclipse will be in Pisces. So there will not be any full moon lunar eclipse in Aries, because already this year, 2023, the full moon in Aries was just a full moon, even though we could feel it was very potent. And next year it will be already in Pisces. And me being very geeky about this, what I actually notice is that at the time when Pluto moves into the Pisces, it's going to be exactly the same thing.
Well, you mean in 20 years from now?
Yes, it's going to be exactly the same thing. The nodes will be in Aries, Libra, and the eclipses will be exactly on the same day. It will be March 25th. I think it's the second one, 2044, but it's literally on the same day at the same degree. Like it's literally on this, I put exclamation here. The first time Pluto ingresses into Pisces, which will be on March 9th, 2043, there will be an eclipse in Libra on the 25th of March, exactly the same as next year when Pluto is going to move into Aquarius. So to me, it feels that these next 20 years, it's going to be kind of like, and I mean, I don't want people to get triggered by using certain words, but it's literally like a reset of humanity. So I really feel personally, that's just my personal opinion and my subjective perception of reality, that in 20 years time, like literally everything will be completely different. So now within these next 20 years, we have on the evolutionary level as human species, we have the opportunity to completely change everything, especially the way we relate to each other. And just the fact that there is no full moon in Aries eclipse means that this is not going to end next year. Even though the nodes are shifting again in January 2025, there will be no full moon in Aries. There is no ending of this cycle that has just begun in April this year, 2023, when Pluto was in Aquarius for the first time. The next full moon in Aries, lunar eclipse with the North Node in Aries on the North Node will not take place until 2043. So
wow.
to me,
there's no closure for Aries.
no, so we are literally
no closure of wars, because Aries is a warlike sign.
To me, Aries, that's why, like I always mention, I moved from traditional astrology to evolutionary astrology, because that is very polarizing and it makes people feel afraid. So I always look at Aries only from and I mean, I'm not obviously trying to gaslight myself and put the head in the sand and pretend things are not happening, but I look at the energy of Aries as the new beginning. Something new is being birthed. So I try to see the Aries energy in that way. So rather than looking at this, that, oh, is there going to be war in 20 years time, which I have no way of knowing, because even from the resources I'm following, the future is not written. Yeah. We decide. Nobody can tell us with the 100% assurance that in 20 years time the world will look like this. Because also I feel, again, from my personal experience, that especially today, as we are experiencing the full moon in Gemini, as we're recording this, there are multiple options available. There are multiple timelines available, and people are becoming much more aware. And this will become even more so when Uranus moves into Gemini, because the process of acceleration, and obviously Uranus being the ruler of Pluto, will accelerate even on deeper level once Uranus moves into Gemini in 25, 26, because again, it will have retrograde into Taurus there. So people will start understanding that nothing is linear and nothing is in a box. Because Saturn in Pisces now, Saturn will move into Aries again. Everybody will move in 2026. We will start perceiving reality in this is the beginning of the change. This, like literally, this new moon in Aries that happened this year in spring 2023 on 29 degrees. This is a beginning of a process that is going to take 20 years until the 44.
So lots of new beginnings throughout many 20 years. Perpetual new beginnings without don't get ready for closure.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like even from the evolutionary perspective, there is no end. There is no end. And even when we look at it from the spiritual perspective, there is no final destination. That's why I even try to explain to my clients that, especially clients with strong Virgo, it's a hero's journey. It is not about we get into some, you know, some point of the end of the game and say like, oh yeah, I made it, I've done everything and that's it. Because the soul always will reincarnate, whether it's to planet Earth or somewhere else, because there is this continuous evolution taking place. So you know, from me being so Aquarian, like looking at it that, oh yeah, you know, there is no end to evolution and there is no like final, how is this going to end? Like, in a sense, it's exciting because it's like, well, you have children, so it's like that book, you know, the Choose Your Adventure, that you can choose the end of, you know, like there is a story in that book and then you can skip to page whatever and the story will continue like this, or page something else, it will continue like, it's like that, you know. So it's literally like how people start shifting their perceptions of reality. Now full moon Gemini, new moon in Sagittarius coming next, like I really feel that there is such a massive transformation going on a planet which has been in a point of conception. The point of conception happened this year in spring, and everything started kind of getting momentum in summer 2023 when the node shifted into Aries and Libra. And now from now on, it's a forward movement. It's a forward movement when there is a lot of one step forward, two step back, because we, at the same time, we resolving all this past conditioning, which, as we already covered with the square, Pluto square in the nodes and pointing to the south node as of summer in the sign of Libra. And we had the eclipses, you know, starting in Libra in October. So there are things that are being illuminated to us and that will become even more present in March 2024, 25th of March, when we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra. So we'll have much more clarity with regards to what this actually means, what all this means, because with all these new moons, it's dark. New moon, we don't really know what's going on here. And it's all about this change in the pattern, how we relate to one another on this planet, because currently we got to the point where, you know, I dare to say we're probably more disconnected than, you know, not, I don't know if ever, because I, you know, I don't have all the memory of everything, but since my lifetime, since I've been on this planet, probably this is the furthest we came to being disconnected. So now things are shifting, you know, and that's why I feel there is no lunar eclipse full moon in Aries, because the next one will be in Pisces, and the Pisces is again, well, this has to close, this cycle has to close, because we are on this beginning of this new journey, which, you know, for many people, the people that come to me, usually they are people that really want change. They like, you know, I'm fed up with having this same experience coming up and stuff. So a lot of people, even though, you know, the things that, and I mean, I don't predict future. So evolutionary astrology doesn't predict future. So I don't say, oh, this is going to happen to you and this is going to happen to you. I just read the energy. I say, okay, well, might be this and this showing up in this and this area of your life. And this is because of this part of your journey, whatever. But a lot of people get excited, even though they know there's going to be a challenge, but they get excited about the prospect of change. And I feel that we are getting to the point in our human experience now in this, you know, 21st century, just before Pluto moves into Aquarius fully, where people are ready for it. So next year, I feel will be really this, this year was the conception, and the next year will be the point of shift. Well, people actually make their decision, because, you know, there will be one more retrograde into Capricorn for 2 months. So you have one more chance to reevaluate this 15-year cycle that started in 2008, when Pluto moved into Capricorn for the first time, and then it retrograde, but still it was all happening in 2008. And then since November 2008, it has not moved from Capricorn until this year, and it was first time in Aquarius. So I really feel that next year things are going to properly start shifting, because Pluto will have one more retrograde in Capricorn. Potentially when it comes to collective energy, we will have more stuff coming up. And that's why even now with this full moon in Gemini, I feel there is so much stuff coming up, so much information is being illuminating, and a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed, and rightly so, because it's so much stimulation. And we are not designed to be bombarded with this amount of stimulation and information all the time. So people will start making adjustments. They will, because Gemini is about the choice. It's about, and also when Pluto is in Aquarius, it's going to be trine in Gemini. So we're paying attention the signs that Pluto will be supported by. So it's Gemini, Libra. That's why I feel all these relationship patterns, especially the dysfunctional ones, are becoming obvious, because there has to be a shift. There has to be a change in order for us to be supported and supporting ourselves on our evolutionary path. And that's why this year and next year things are potentially going to get to the boiling point, let's just say. Like there will be more and more things that will become obvious, potentially uncomfortable, because the change always happens under pressure. It's like the squares in a chart. Change happens because there is a pressure. But on the other spectrum of that, usually from the point of history, every time there's been a challenging situation going on in the world, that's what really brought up the true human compassion and love and desire for connection and the reevaluation of what really matters. So in a sense, unfortunately, because of the way that we are experiencing this reality, which is the reality of polarity, that there always has to be the light and the dark, and the positive and the negative, and the good and the bad, we sometimes have to experience the extreme in one to then want to go into the other and to find a balance. And that's what pretty much this Aries and Libra nodal axis are about, that are currently supporting Pluto. Well, supporting us on our evolution through challenge, because Pluto has been squaring the nodes, and it will remain squaring them until it moves into Aquarius, by which point the orb will become too wide.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to say something, Lada?
Yeah, I was thinking, because I'm not so much evolutionary, but I saw for the 2 months Pluto moved into Aquarius, March and April, we had AI come up. That's when it was made public, ChatGPT, and it changed everything so fast. I mean, Aquarius is such a fast sign, and Pluto there, just in 2 months it touched, and it turned around most of the industries. Almost everyone that I know now uses AI. Careers are changing so quickly, even though Pluto is back in Capricorn, maybe slowing down the change. And within those 2 months, some of the biggest banks that were always reliable collapsed. In 3 in America, a few in Europe, and so on the external world, such huge changes happen. And psychologically, how do you see Pluto in Aquarius affecting us collectively, for our evolution, for the soul, for the individual?
Well, in evolutionary astrology, especially the way I was being taught, they always come in pairs. So, when you have too much Aquarius, we need to go a little bit to the Leo and find a middle point, because they always influence each other. And then, of course, all the signs influence each other anyway through the trines, sextiles, squares, everything. But there is always the opposition, which is the pair. So for me, the way I perceive this is that people have to come back to their heart, because there is going to be a lot of shifts externally when it comes to AI, because that's the shadow aspect of Aquarius. AI can be used. Again, I don't like using the word use, because that straight away puts it in a certain, one is in a dominant role than the other. But it could be a helpful tool, but of course it could be used in a negative way. Now, how the AI is being used for, I can't find a better word to identify this, it depends on the consciousness of the person using it. So that's what I mean. And this is again, I don't know obviously what is people's belief system, but with regards to the past history of Atlantis and Lemuria, people would say, well, there is nothing new under the sun, because everything we experiencing already happened. Atlantis, super evolved. Even when we just want to stick to our history, Egypt, Greece, Rome, Persia, all these massive empires that are now just ruins. There is nothing left, or small countries, right? Very small countries. And why was that? Because when the technological or, our mental mind, evolution, goes further, suppresses our spiritual evolution, our heart. Because I know from traditional astrology, people say, oh, but Leo isn't Leo about, play and, could be narcissistic and self-centered and stuff. But in a high vibration, Leo rules your heart, and is the inner child, is the connection to your higher self, because that's through your heart. That's how you connect to your higher self, is this natural desire to be happy and joyous and play, and is the thing within you that that decides, like I always say to my client, what flavor of ice cream do you like, what food do you like, what entertainment do you like. That something is already within you. Nobody decides that for you. There is something within you that navigates those choices, and that's Leo. That's your authentic self. So again, going back to your question with regards to AI and Aquarius in maybe lower vibrational quality, it depends on where we are as individuals. So when there is too much going on technologically, and it will continue, because Uranus is going to move into Gemini. What is Gemini? Communication. It's the way we are connecting through the way we identify reality. So all this will be affected. So that's what I feel, that now, especially this year and next year, this is the preparation. So with Pluto ingress, like going back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius, is giving us time. It's giving us a time to adjust to this energy. So we'll get second hit, of course, next year. And, we have this time, but at the same time, we also have the opportunity to reevaluate and make a choice. Like, yes, AI can make your life easier. It can make things faster. It can make your money faster or easier, whatever, but at what cost? What is the intention, and what are you doing with the time that the AI frees for you? And this depends on a consciousness of the person and where they're evolutionary at. So this is why I feel there is so much stuff coming to the surface, which is in many cases triggering us, re-traumatizing us, because Uranus, Neptune, Pluto is a collective memory. So that's why I say that if there is a war anywhere in the world, we all will have a somatic response to that, because there was a lifetime when that was you, when you had that experience, or your ancestors, or if nothing else, it's in our DNA as a human collective. So that's why so many things are coming to the surface and becoming obvious, because we have a free will. So we can choose, like, okay, you can see where just being truly in your technology and this consumer mind and competition and all this, which is how we were being conditioned to be, that there has to be a hierarchy. Somebody is on the top, somebody is the one that has to listen to orders. There is no win-win. There until this point there's been inequality, which is why the South Node is in Libra and being pointed to from Pluto, squaring it. And this is something that needs to be adjusted. This is something that has to change. Actually, just now, just as we're recording this, few days from now, there will be the conjunction between South Node in Libra that actually last time happened during the lunar eclipse in Taurus last year, around that time. So again, what really matters to you? What is important to you? Is it just the money? Or is it actually the connection with nature, connection with people? Is it about success, or is it actually about enjoying life? What is it? And this is where people have the choice. And this is what Aquarius offers. Yes, there are a lot of options. There will be even more technological advancements, but what we use it for and what is the intention depends on each of us individually, and the response to that depends on how much healing we have done. So this is where the spiritual aspect of our humanness, because we are not just the body or just the mind, we have multiple bodies, from yogic point of view, we have energetic bodies, spiritual bodies. We are not just this one physical shell and that's it, with brain. That's not all we are. There is an aspect of how we experience in this reality, but it's not what we are. So when we actually focus on all these different areas of this experience, and like look at it from a more spiritual perspective, then yes, even when you think about ETs, if you want to go there, they have all this technology, and why they didn't blow up the planet or something? Well, because their spiritual evolution is higher. That's why they don't need to do that, because they already resolved all these lower emotions like envy, jealousy, anger, and all these things. So this is why these emotions are coming up from us now, being triggered, because this is opportunity for resolving them. So then when all these technological advancements are being offered to us, we approach them consciously.
Oh, the other dangerous is that we become slaves to it, which is Pluto is like obsession, almost to the level of
Control.
addiction, being entangled, enslaved. That's the danger of it as well.
And this is where the choice comes, because everybody is making the choice for themselves. And the choice will have consequences one way or another, because, you know, like I usually repeat that most of the things that, you know, comes out of my mouth is a subjective perception of reality. There are only few things that are universal truth, but the law of attraction and law of cause and effect is the universal truth that applies to everyone without exception. No matter where you're from, no matter what your color of skin or religion, these are laws, they apply to everyone. There is no exception, or you can call it law of karma. So yeah, so, you know, like when people are aware, then they will make conscious choices. So it's like with everything, you know, it's like even with money, you know, like money is neutral. It's about how people use them, you know, like, and it's like that with everything. It's like that with absolutely everything in the world. So yeah, so now we are.
Isn't Pluto also going to trine the nodes next year? Or first Jupiter? Isn't there a lot of help to Pluto? I think Jupiter trines Pluto at one moment, then the nodes towards the very end of the year.
Well, the nodes are going to be shifting into Virgo and Libra, Virgo and Pisces. So there's going to be an in conjunction, because Pluto's going to be, that's going to be on the late degrees.
Yeah, because they'll be first at
yes, so
0 degrees Libra, the south
Yes.
node. So the
So
south
Pluto is going
node,
to
yeah.
trine. It's going to trine the south node and sextile the north node, because they're going backwards. Yeah, so there is going to be a support. And I feel this is also to do with the nodes then moving into Pisces and Virgo, which is about adjustments and letting go. Because Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius, it's about individuation and setting yourself free. But again, everything has to be in balance. You see, everything has to be in balance, because if we go too much into mental aspect of Aquarius, because Aquarius in essence, on the deepest level, is very humanitarian, which is about actual doing good for everyone, you know, everybody being equal, because that's why it's got the two parallel lines, which is where we're heading. This is the, you know, this is the high vibration of Aquarius, you know, that what everybody's talking about, golden age, new earth, it's all this, you know, it's all this. This is that aspect of it. But before we get to that point, we still need to resolve what got us to this point. Because once the time accelerates even more, the manifestation will also happen faster. So we need to understand what got us to where we are now. And in order for us to create different outcome and create this different reality, this different earth, we need to understand what adjustments need to be made. Because if we keep making the same choices under old circumstances, that the same thing will take place. The same thing will manifest, which is why there is nothing new under the sun. Everything that's happening globally had already happened in the past. Like, yeah, the details of it are different. We are more evolved. We have more evolved weaponry and technology, but the essence of human behavior and our response to it is very much similar. I'm not saying in everybody's case, because of course some people have changed and evolved, but on the collective level, at the moment, the response is still very much the same. And this is something which I feel, you know, Pluto will be supporting us with, because it will be pointing towards these nodes that will then be slowly moving towards Virgo and Pisces. And that's all about healing. You know, also with Neptune being on the last degrees, you know, Neptune is going to be trining the North Node. And, you know, there is still this roof, you know, between Uranus and Pluto and Neptune, you know, the roof of the kite. It's still going to be present, because
it will stay for 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead.
Exactly, because
which is very hopeful for humanity.
Yeah, they are supporting. That's what I feel, that, you know, no matter what's happening in the world, even though it makes no sense to a logical mind and on an emotional level, because there is a lot of distraction, it has to happen. It has to happen, because in a sense we have to understand why is this happening? Like, you know, like if we want to live in this new earth and golden age and all this that people are dreaming about, which is absolutely possible, and it already exists, you know, it exists, we just have to tune into the timeline. But we cannot create the same, how Einstein said it, you know, there is that saying that if you keep repeating the same thing and expect different result, is like definition of insanity or something. So like we have all these desires to create this new thing, different things, different manifestations of reality, but we still do the same thing and respond in the same way. So then how is it possible? There has to be a change, something has to shift. So that's why these planets are accelerating everything, and we are being overwhelmed because everything is happening at once. Everything is literally happening at once. There is no break. It's one thing after the other. There is a war, there is a natural disaster, there is this, there is that, there is everything is coming up at once. Before it was like spread out, you know. Okay, there was
yeah, for
that
sure.
thing.
It's sped
Now
up.
everything is all.
Yeah.
Yes, and
maybe once per decade things would speed up a bit, but now it's been nonstop.
So when we look at it from this evolutionary perspective, because this is also what I say, just because it's a positive aspect, it doesn't mean it's going to feel positive. It just means that we're ready for the change. You know, it just means we're ready for the change, because this is something, and I'm sure I already mentioned this, this is something that really confused me when I started studying evolutionary astrology, because squares were looked at as something good. And I was like, squares good, it doesn't feel good. And that's like, well, because that's what creates the change. You know, squares is the thing that creates the change, and the change is good, because it's usually something that just became like stagnant. It became stagnant. The only constant in life is change. We cannot stay stagnant. That's why Uranus is in Taurus, because it's saying, no, we need to let go of this fixation, because things are moving ahead, things are changing. And in order for us to tap into all these multiple choices, multiple options, you know, Uranus in Gemini, there's this multiplicity of realities, multidimensionality of what you can experience, which, yes, on a lower frequency, it could be all this AI and metaverse and all these kind of things. But, you know, again, how we perceive the reality is a subjective choice. So for us to make this different choice and have this different experience, it depends on how fixated we are on the old stuff. So with Pluto going into Capricorn one more time, there will be probably more coming up, more of this Capricornian old structure that is now on its last legs, because Saturn is in Pisces until 2026. So Saturn will be in Pisces the entire next year still. And yeah, and then after that, from 2025 onwards, things will start shifting. So I really feel 2024 is still a year that there will be a lot of the old being present. And again, you know, like, you know, I have to obviously go into how I perceive the reality, because I'm sharing my experience. But even the channels that I follow, they saying that at the moment we all are experiencing everything that's going on, you know, because we all tune in into the collective. But as the time progresses and we choose our personal experience and personal timeline, you might not see what everything that's going on in the world. How that is going to manifest on a tangible level, I don't know. But, you know, for example, now because of the media, because of the television, everybody knows everything. You know, everybody, you can just Google and you know everything that's going on. But apparently, as the time goes on, as the timelines will shift, we might not all have the same experience. You might not even know there is this happening, because once we increase the vibration and the frequency, you will be tapped into something completely different. So, I mean, I don't know how this is all going to play out, but like Pluto in Aquarius, we go into level that we don't comprehend at the moment, which is, as we know through experience, Pluto moves very slowly. I mean, it can be in one sign, well, apparently between 12 to 30 years. It takes 284 years, I believe, for the entire cycle, you know, of Pluto in going through the entire 12 signs, but it spends in one sign like less time, in one sign more time. In Aquarius, it will be obviously 20, 21 years, depending if we count in this year already. But then in Pisces, it's going to be even longer, 22 years until 2066, 67. So it's going to be even longer in Pisces. So it really depends. It really depends, I guess, what Pluto has on his mind that needs to shift. But what I'm trying to say is this Aquarian energy, I don't feel any of us can truly understand what it means. Because just as we didn't know in 2008, apart from, yes, we had the experience of the market collapsing, but we didn't know how we'll feel about it in 2023. You know, like now, yes, the world, you can say, is, you know, not so far off that time, but everything else is different. You know, everything changed. People's opinions and their perception of everything has shifted. In 15 years, people shifted very, very much from this Capricornian structure. And I'm not saying, you know, some people potentially still feel safe and want the world to stay the same. I don't know. I can only speak for myself. But for many people, it's like, yeah, I'm ready for change, you know, for not everyone, but many people. So 20 years from now, when Pluto finishes with Aquarius, I don't think any of us can know how any of us will see the future, or like, you know, how we will perceive the world by the time Pluto is finished with Aquarius. So 2024 is just the second dip into Aquarius, but it will be 2025 when we'll have the full Pluto in Aquarius experience, because Pluto will no longer move. It will literally stay there until 2043. When it will
2025, everything ramps up so big, because Neptune's gonna touch into Aries, Uranus into Gemini, Pluto full time in Aquarius. And as we said last time, these are the fastest signs. Aquarius, Aries, Gemini, they move fast, they talk fast. It says the timeline speeds up so much. And it's so hard to keep your mind and soul connection when everything is moving so fast.
Exactly.
Like we'll have to trust intuition, and
that's why this is the preparation. This is the, like, I don't like saying, you know, things like this is your last chance, the time is running out, because it's too fatalistic and it isn't the truth, you know.
Last chance to do what? I mean,
but you know, this really, like, I feel through these opportunities that we are being presented through all these challenges that we are experiencing as a collective, it is a good opportunity to maybe do a little soul search and decide, like, okay, when the world is not feeling very stable and falling apart, what can I do for me to feel more neutralized? Like, do I need to go and take a walk in the nature? Do I need to just sit and stare at the wall? Or do I need to take a hot bath? Or what is it that I need to do to self-care? So I feel now more than ever, especially, you know, as we had the opportunity to find more about ourselves through North Node moving through Taurus until July this year, now is the time to put it into practice, because the North Node moved into the sign of Aries when Mars was in Virgo. So that's about learning and adjustments. So as we can see, everything around us speeding up and getting more and more unpredictable, and there is overstimulation with everything, and there could be fear mongering from every possible direction if you choose to tap into it. What is the antidote? What is the cure? Where the cure is the water signs, the earth signs. You know, we need to ground, we need to connect to our intuition, connect to our emotion. And yeah, we're still having a human experience. It's not about spiritual bypass, like, yeah, rainbows and butterflies is all perfect because I can, you know, I don't know, astro travel or something. Like, no, you still have to come back to earth, because we're still here having this experience. But this is the thing, you know, everything always comes with the polarity. So if everything is too fast externally, how can we slow it down internally? Because you cannot affect your external, you know, there is so much we can do, you know, we cannot change the world, you know, not like, and this is why people get overwhelmed, because they think like, oh my God, the world is going crazy, how can I change it? Well, you cannot. Like, not in the way that we perceive. The only way we can change the world is that we change ourselves, and if everybody does it, then we change the world together. But not one person can change the world. That's why, like, even having one politician represented the entire country and expect that person to change everything, it's kind of like not really. You know, how is that possible? It's just one person. But, you know, anyway, we can't really go into those rabbit holes, because then we would get to completely different direction. So I really feel that through everything that's going on, which is a preparation, 2024 will be even more tangible preparation. It's opportunity to find these self-care tools that will support you on your journey, that will then allow you to respond in a way that is supportive, rather than getting overwhelmed, because we cannot change the way the world is heading in the way that it's speeding up, it's becoming more technological. There's nothing we can do about that. Now, how you respond to it and how you use this information, that's up to you. And how you allow that to affect you, because that which is happening externally, you can only affect directly your environment, your immediate environment, because I cannot affect, not on that level. Energetically, yes, but I cannot affect there being or not being a war. That's not something I can personally affect, but how do I respond? And energetically, what energy do I put out there? Now, do I add more of the energy of anger, more of the energy of hopelessness and victimhood, or do I add the energy of hope, love, unconditional love, send blessings, send healing, whatever it is? This is what you can do. This is what you can do. And that's why I feel, yes, everything is speeding up, everything is becoming crazier in a way, and that's why we need to go more within. Not check out and think that, oh yeah, these things are not happening, because they are, but how can you respond in a different way? And this is where things start shifting, and this again will become even more of a focus in the 25, when the nodes move into Pisces and Virgo, which, as I just said to you before we press record, it's interesting that they moved into Aries, Libra, just as we had the new moon in Cancer, and they're going to move into Virgo and Pisces at the same time as is the full moon in Cancer. So we're going to become in full cycle. So even with the nodes, we don't fully understand what's going on until the cycle has ended, which for the nodes is 18 months. Yeah, it's 18 months. So I always, because people once ask me like, yeah, but they're going backwards. So what does that mean? They're going to get to zero. And I'm like, yeah, because they're probably trying us to delete the conditioning, because we used to the 30 degrees that, oh, I have a full awareness of what this means because it's 30 degrees. But then it's like, oh, but maybe it's time to change it because it's the karma, it's the karmic lunar nodes. So yeah, so this is, I don't even know if that answered your question, but
no, thank you. Well, thank you so much, Mila. So that is interesting. Psychologically, emotionally, externally, the world is changing. 24 is ramping up, but 2025 will be another level altogether. Basically.
Yeah, and it's with the 2024, the energy of 8, it's very much Saturnian and Jupiterian. From numerology point of view, it's Saturn and Jupiter, and that is the energy of stability. And that again takes you back to yourself, because now Jupiter is actually in a sign of Taurus, as we know. It's still retrograde until December 30th, 31st, depending where you are in the world. So Jupiter is making us reevaluate these stories, because everything we perceive in our experience is based on our belief system. It's based on, that's the filter through which we experience everything, is the belief system. So next year, Jupiter will move into Gemini, which is again a choice. It's again a choice. What do we choose? So based on these Taurus qualities, what matters to you? What is your relationship to yourself? You can then choose. And then in a year 8, which is next year, 2024, you can start building that up, because the 8 is the frequency of abundance and unlimited potential, but it requires work. So we need to do something. We need to make some changes. And that's why there are so many squares present in the skies, because things are getting to the point where a change has to take place. And with Pluto, an evolutionary planet, when it's becoming so obvious that the change has to take place like it is now, I think it's obvious to everyone by this point, the less resistance we put to this energy that, oh, but I don't want change, like good Taurus, like myself, because I'm Taurus sun, like, oh, but I don't like change, I like being in my comfort zone. The more resistance we put to it, the harder it will become, because when it gets so obvious, especially with Pluto moving into Aquarius, which is very progressive sign, Aquarius is almost the end of the zodiac. It has the full understanding of the 10 signs that came before it, and it's saying, okay, now we need to innovate. We need to go to the next level. We need to break free from everything which now became restricted, which we had the opportunity to discover throughout 22 to 23, when Saturn was in Capricorn, had the conjunction with Pluto, and then in Aquarius, we became very aware of potentially what, is now restricted or outdated. And now Saturn is in Pisces. So with this number 8 is the year for rebuilding. So starting to make changes. And this is why I feel also that more and more people are interested in self-growth, in actually understanding themselves, in trying to find ways where they do feel self-empowered and understanding their own path, and then they feel more competent and like having the agency to make this choice.
Thank you so much, Mila, for your insights. Very spiritual, very deep. It's more like a lecture on spirituality and mind.
Thank you.
Thank you again. If anyone would like to contact Mila, I'll put the link below. She looks at your spiritual journey. As she said, she doesn't do like, oh, this is what's going to happen to you. This is what more. It's more like the energies and where you're flowing towards, and what is your soul destiny, soul path. And of course, you have the free will to choose there. Thank you so much, Mila, again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.